Okay, I think this is a great time to start things off. So I just wanted to welcome Emily and Anna to Career Connections meeting, and I just want to give a quick introduction. So Emily is currently a sophomore at Cornell. She's majoring in hotel administration with minors in real estate and creative writing. And at Marlboro, she founded the Career Connections Club and was a Violet's Giving Circle board member and participated in the Social Justice Capstone. At Cornell, she's the president of the Cornell Real Estate Club, a member of Class Council, and an ambassador of admissions and a TA. Anna is a sophomore at Duke, and at Marlboro, she helped lead Girls Go Global in addition to Career Connections, played volleyball, and participated in the honors research and science. At Duke, she's majoring in neuroscience with minors in computer science and Spanish. And beyond classes, she's a part of a research team investigating the links between exercise therapy and menopause with Alzheimer's disease, and volunteers in a local elementary schools where she leads science projects to help girls become interested in STEM fields. So, with that, we're going to start off with our first question, which is, what were you interested in as a student at Marlboro?
Okay, I can start us off. Um, so I was kind of like lucky enough to kind of know what I wanted to study going into college. So in Marlboro, I was interested in a lot of like math and science classes. And so it was nice because my APs ended up applying to some of my major credits. But I really appreciated honors research and science as kind of an opportunity to explore more into like the specific sectors of like science I like because I loved AP bio, but found that I was more interested in the brain and things like cognition, which was something I got to explore through honors research.
Yeah, so a little bit unlike Anna, I didn't really know what I wanted to do specifically, which is why Marlboro was a great place to be because I liked taking like art classes with the social justice capstone. I think I was the first cohort with that. So we had a lot of flexibility and freedom, and I'm actually really close to the nonprofit I chose for my social justice capstone, which is No Limits for Deaf Children. And I think they are still working with a couple other Marlboro kids on new programs, which I think is fantastic. And yeah, that's why Anna and I started the Career Connections Club to just find out more cool things that you can do and invite other speakers. So I'm glad that now it's come kind of full circle and Anna and I are able to speak today. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And you sort of touched on this, but are there any opportunities you advise high school students to experience before college? This can be in the Marlboro community or even like outside.
I think that if you're interested in something, what a great thing to do is to reach out to your teachers or alumni and maybe just set up like a phone call with them to kind of figure out their path and how they got there. And I did a lot of like little internships throughout high school based on things that like I was just interested even a little bit. Like I worked at a bakery and because I was just obsessed with baking and my parents couldn't eat everything that I was producing. So that was like a great way for me to shake out like my baking interest. So I just think that whatever you're interested in, there's tons of resources both at Marlboro and externally that you can tap into.
Yeah, like just going off what Emily said, I think kind of exploring like all Marlboro and even like Los Angeles has to offer, like being in such a big city. I don't think I realized how important or like how many opportunities came from that while I was there. And so like I know sometimes it's pretty easy to get caught up in how important everything seems, like all of your decisions seem, but it's like it's still, high school is an excellent opportunity to kind of like explore and see what's out there and find your interests. And even your first 2 years of college are kind of the same thing, and like it seems like everything is speeding up so fast to get to like this like end goal of like this career and like all of this whatever success, however you want to define that. But kind of like being able to like step back from that and explore different things either in the form of internships or phone calls or even speakers like this is really helpful and important, I think.
Yeah, thank you. And what now, like moving on from high school, what was the college process like for you and being able to choose, what was the best fit for you ultimately?
Um, if I'm being honest, the college process was rough. It always is. And even when it ended up going the way I like wanted it to, or it's like the whole process is very hard. And again, like it gets kind of easy to get caught up in the like stress culture that surrounds it. And while like the college counselors at Marlboro are amazing, wonderful human beings who like I trust them with my whole life. It still again gets very it's a stressful time because it feels like your future is being decided and it's like out of your hands once you press submit. But the thing is like you've been working towards this for your whole like for like your academic career, and kind of I know people say this, they say like, oh, like you'll find your place anywhere, but that is kind of true, and especially seeing how my friends from Marlboro have like found their places in schools that they either really wanted to go to or didn't even think they'd end up being at. Like really all of them are happy, and I think that just goes to show how wonderful the college department is at Marlboro, because friends from other schools like haven't had the same experience. And so like despite all the stress and all the how like intense it seems in the moment, it does work out, and from there it's wonderful.
Yeah, kind of going off of what Anna said, it is like an incredibly stressful time because it feels like it's the biggest decision that's happening in your life at that moment. But I thought there was like a lot of exciting moments about the college process, like college touring and like seeing, like going to a bunch of places and seeing a lot of schools that you see yourself being able to go to, having friends, enjoying just the locations overall. And what's so interesting is like, yeah, Anna touched on this, is that the college process at Marlboro is so incredibly different from other people's. We have a lot more support than a lot of other high schoolers get. I remember I was talking to one girl and she said that she just put a bunch of schools on like a dartboard and threw the dart, and that's where she ED'd. And I feel like in our process, it's a lot of researching. I feel like families are really involved, and it's nice to have that support. But you can really, I think you can find your people and your interests pretty much at any college, because in a lot of regards, a lot of them are super similar.
Yeah. So we had a question in the chat, which I feel like is really similar to this question or going off of it. So it is, how are you able to pick your majors and where did you look to see what was out there when deciding that?
So I kind of went into it like I think generally people have some general idea of maybe what they want to study, and I know like I was a little different, kind of having a more clear idea. But the thing is, like most schools give you a like quite a bit of time to kind of explore, and like so if for example at Duke you don't have to declare your major until your second semester or sophomore year. And so the vast majority of my friends went in like being like, oh, I kind of like econ, but maybe I'll be pre-med, but like, and so especially that first semester and your first year, you have an opportunity to kind of take classes in different departments, see what you like. And so I like recommend really utilizing that, and like I think you kind of go into it with what you were interested in high school, but a lot of times that changes. And like I know people who are like upperclassmen who've changed their major like countless times. And like I think within each institute, like within each school or institution, like they can help you kind of find your path. And getting involved in things outside of classes might help you explore like different like volunteer opportunities or clubs and stuff, which I think kind of comes up in another question. But it's just like it's really all about exploration in your first few months at school.
Yeah, so the hotel school at Cornell is really kind of specific. It's within the business school at Cornell, which is like S.C. Johnson School of Business, but it's a different major. There's really small class sizes. It's kind of similar to Marlboro because of the kind of direct contact you get with teachers, like office hours. My classes had like, some of them had like 12 people in them, and you learn business topics, but you also, like I'm taking a culinary lab, you also learn about like hotel operations. So that's kind of things that interest me, and I wanted to be in a smaller school that had like a very community feel, but at the same time, Cornell is a large school too. So that's kind of how I found my major, but a lot of my friends that are in arts and sciences and engineering are still moving around and taking a lot of different classes to kind of see like what they want to do in the future. And that is really nice, being able to like look through the course roster and just pick a couple credits that you think that might interest you and see where that takes you. And maybe you divert a little bit and do research or something like that if you find a topic that's not specifically in your major, but something that interests you.
Got it. Thank you guys. This is already so great, and I'm learning a lot from your perspectives. And since you both went to college out of state, how was the transition for you professionally in terms of finding internships and like finding jobs, and socially creating friends?
So I'll touch on socially first. I think that because I went to Marlboro starting in 7th grade, I was a little nervous, but just because I was like, I haven't made friends since 7th grade, because most of the girls, stick till 12th grade. And then, so I was a little nervous, but I did this thing called Outdoor Odyssey, which is a pre-orientation program where you spend 6 days like hiking and camping in the woods. And I didn't know this, but they didn't even give me like a tent or anything. So I was totally taken off guard, totally put out of my comfort zone. But that was kind of my introduction to like making sure that I was putting myself out there. And then from there, it's really easy to make friends. You have your classes, you have clubs, you have sports. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. And then professionally, I think just being at like coming from a competitive school, and also just being within the business school, that professional development is strangely more competitive than you would think. Like I remember freshman year, we already had career fairs 1 month in, and they encouraged us to like explore it. But yeah, so a lot of people were getting internships starting freshman year, summer, and that was definitely something that I didn't think that would be happening. And I think that people from home, like more LA, are a little more relaxed about the job search starting from freshman year. But yeah, that's from my experience.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess in terms like socially, um, I I will admit like our freshman fall was like very different than this year's freshman fall, and I guess we can kind of like come to that later in the following question. But like the way like schools structure their orientation weeks and those like first weeks of the semester are really around being able to like connect with your class. And at least at Duke, like they did a great job of giving opportunities to meet people. And like I got really close with my hall freshman year, and met people through that. And I didn't do a orientation program, but the people who I like know that did them loved them. And I think that's like a really good way of like if you're nervous about like making friends at school, that I would like highly recommend. It seems like most schools offer pre-orientation programs because then you'll get to know people in that group. And even if they're not your friends when you graduate, like they'll be there to like help you kind of get adjusted to school. And yeah, like I think a reality for a lot of people that it doesn't really get addressed is that like freshman fall can be pretty hard depending on whether like it takes some time to find like your closest friends. And like I'll admit, like I was lucky I like live with the first person I met at Duke, and that does not usually happen, and I'm grateful that it did. But just like being aware that it's not going to be completely smooth sailing from the second you arrive is like good to know, because like with time you will get there. Like everyone I know who like kind of struggled at first, like within a few months found their place, found the things that they were into and their friends, and then like began to love it. So I just like think being aware of that is important because people tend not to talk about it that much. And then in terms of like professionally, yeah, there's definitely a pressure to start getting internships and jobs and figuring out what you want to do. And I guess this is kind of a theme of what I've been saying, but being able to like step back from that a little bit, and like for the 6 people that posted on LinkedIn with internships, there's like 50 more that are so clueless and don't know what's going on. And so like being aware that that's not the majority, and like being able to not always compare yourself to that. Like it's good to have a little bit of pressure, but it can get really stressful really fast. So staying level minded about that I think is important. But like the school, like seems that all these schools have a lot of ways to get connected. And yes, as a freshman, you're probably not going to really draw a lot of attention to your resume at a career fair first semester because like the matter of fact is they're looking for rising seniors. So like that's just not you and that's okay. And like your time will come and you'll figure it out. Um, but like we have a great career center here. And so getting connected with like those kinds of resources and also like just exploring within the school first is very important. And then in terms of like deciding what I got involved with freshman year, like we had an activities fair and I signed up for probably 20 email lists. I ended up sticking with like a couple things like I'm a tour guide and then I'm like in my bio it mentions how like the volunteering I do and then I got involved in research later on. But like just I think it's important to like take some pressure off your first 2 weeks at school. Like you don't need to have your best friends and know exactly what career you're going to do and be involved in like 50 different clubs because like one thing I didn't realize going into school is how you have to like apply for a lot of these clubs and like there's an interview process and like it's very daunting, but if you just like go through it, send your application, like just try for a couple things that you're interested in, like I like it'll work out. Yeah.
Thank you. So currently there's a lot of talk about our uncertain future in regard to the pandemic and the political climate. So we wanted to know how you guys are managing this and any advice you give to teens as we're processing this virtually as well.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of uncertainty. I think it's important to like be able to have honest conversations with like friends and family, like expressing the uncertainty and like being together in it. Because like I mean I voted, but it feels like a lot of it's out of my control at this point. And so I think there's other ways to like stay engaged and involved, which might like help you with this like feeling of like loss of control because that like helplessness is very scary and frustrating. But then and so like in terms of like adjusting to a socially distant semester, like I'm lucky enough to be able to like still be in Durham, which is the city where Duke is located, and like living with friends. But I know there's a lot of like first semester freshmen that are taking classes from home, and like that must be really hard. And so um but I think there's ways to still get connected online and sure like Zoom clubs, like for instance, the Zoom club, it might not be great at first, but I think there's still an opportunity to meet people. And I think just having hope, like honestly, it comes down to that. Like one day maybe you'll get to meet these people in person and go from there. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of like optimism, even when things are pretty dreary. And about in terms of the job market, I'm not totally sure. Like I think it's just like keep networking, keep exploring, and because like it's like the thing is like it's just not in my control, and I have to like just come to terms with that. As frustrating or scary as that might be, but keep going on because it will get better, hopefully sooner rather than later. But yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of wanted to add on to something that Anna said earlier about clubs at college. Like no one tells you how competitive they are. There's some clubs that like have a resume drop and then 2 rounds of like technical and behavioral interviews that you like don't know the answers to, and it's really confusing. But that's why it's important to kind of find out, like, do you want to really be with these people that are going to ask you about like the stock market for the first time you're meeting them and stuff like that? And like for me, no. So it's kind of like just finding your place and taking the pressure off of yourself. I think that is really important, especially with like Zoom classes. I'm sure like all of you guys are experiencing how difficult it is to pay attention and to focus and to be engaged. So just taking account like this really is like a year to give yourself a break, and just sort of push yourself as hard as you want to. Like don't feel like with all this free time, like suddenly it's your time to like have to write a book or like start a business or like be a venture capitalist. Like you don't really have to be doing those things. But at being at like a high achieving high school, like I know that a lot of that pressure is there to like make use of your time and never have like a spare second to like think or breathe. So in terms of just relaxing, I definitely think that's something that I've been doing a lot more. Like I didn't take a really heavy credit load because I was like, I know that I'm not going to be able to focus as well as I would if it was in person. And then in terms of preparing for the job market, so this summer, Miss Rosie actually helped me with this because she wrote my recommendation for this program that I'm doing called Girls Who Invest, which is pretty much, I think it's a 4-week educational program about finance and like core investment strategies. And then they pair you up with a paid internship at like an asset management firm or investing firm. And usually it's in person and you go to a college campus, like either Notre Dame, UPenn, or UCLA, and you learn from their professors and you get a couple like certificates about like financial analytics and stuff like that. And then once they prep you, you go into the job world. And I'm really excited to be doing this because I'm really interested in finance and investing and real estate. So in terms of finding opportunities and how I found this, there's a ton of diversity programs for women specifically because there is such a big gender gap in finance and consulting and just real estate in general, like a ton of industries. So what they want to do is try to bridge the gap and make sure that females like have this opportunity. So they do a ton of insight programs, which is like firms you apply and you guys will get maybe familiar in a couple of years with these things called high reviews, which is pretty much how the job market's shifting by doing interviews. But instead of like one-on-one interviews, you record yourself answering questions. So they'll be like, tell me about yourself. And you have like 30 seconds to think and then 1 minute to respond on like a video platform that they do. And this is like a whole new transition. And once you do the high review, then you get invited to these like insight programs, which you get to learn about the firm. You get to maybe get a mentor in the program, and they look over your resume. They maybe will do interview prep. And once you go through these programs, maybe you'll get an interview for first round if you want to do an internship at their company. So there's a ton of different things you can do. And you guys don't have to worry about it right now, but I'm happy to talk about it later in the future when you guys are there, because it's a little difficult, like navigating all the different things, all the different opportunities available. And like Girls Who Invest, like a lot of people don't know about it, but I'm sure once it's going to get bigger and slowly more people will be interested. So I'd be happy to talk about that later.
That's great. Thank you so much. And that program sounds really, really incredible. So thank you for bringing that up. So putting a lens into the future, where do you both see yourself in the next 5 years, and what are your long-term career goals?
So I'm not exactly sure where I will be in the next 5 years, hopefully like graduated. And in terms of long-term career goals, like right now, I'm super interested in real estate and just that sort of market in terms of my personal career goals. So steps to getting there, like I joined the Cornell Real Estate Club, and then over time I became so involved. So now I'm co-president with one of my good friends, and we're working on real estate treks, so people can get information on that and sharing resources. And then, yeah, so maybe I'll still be in real estate. Maybe I will be doing something else. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think the next 5 years, it's funny like how far away that seems right now. And I know I'll wake up and like it'll in 5 years will have gone by, which is so weird. But anyways, like like Emily, I'm not totally sure. I want to have more like direction in what I'm doing, because right now, like I have these topics I'm interested in school, and I want to see how they actually apply to the job field. And so I've really like been looking into this like new developing field of neurotechnology and how I can get involved as like a neuroscience and computer science student. And that might come in the form of like programming, or there's all this like new development of like brain technology, or even like tech consulting or things like that. And so I want to like be able to give myself an opportunity to like find my place in the field and kind of develop through there and find like good mentors. And with that comes my longer career goals of just like right now I'm not exactly sure what I want to do, but I know I have these interests, and so kind of like continuing to pursue those interests and finding my place from there, I think.
That's really great. So knowing what you know now, what advice would you offer your high school self? And this is the last question I'll ask, and then we can open it up to anybody else who has questions.
I think the biggest thing would be like it's easy to get caught up in like all like Marlboro culture very and like because it's like it's your life. That's what you do. Like I commuted to Marlboro. I loved my time there and was so happy to like be involved in all the things I was. But like I think we all know like it can get stressful. And so being able to like step back from that and realizing that high school is like one phase of your life and you'll learn so much from it, and there will like it has its ups and its downs, but being able to like reflect on that and recognizing that there will be a point where you're looking back on Marlboro and it's not the all consuming like point that it is like right now when you're in it, and being able to like grow from that. I think like it's hard to put things in perspective when you're like so caught up in things, and so I would like to tell my high school self that, to be able to like step back from it a little bit, and again, easier said than done, not really sure what that looks like, but I think it's something important I've kind of gauged since graduating.
Yeah, I think that with just being at Marlboro and being surrounded by so many cool, amazing, smart other people, that a lot of times it's so easy to be like, oh, they're doing this, so I should also be doing that. Like I know that I was like, oh, honors research, like that is so cool. Everyone's doing it. Like I have to do that. But I'm not really don't really have a research mind. So I did the social justice capstone instead, and just like knowing that you can just pretty much create like your own path. I feel like at Marlboro, you don't like really notice this while you're there, but a lot of people are we're all kind of going through like the same steps, with just like education. Then you're gonna go to college, like you do the same sort of like clubs and sports, and we kind of all have like this like formula that varies like a little bit different from everyone. But just knowing that you can really like you have this time to explore, and now is a really great time to have fun. And I know it's difficult now because we have COVID and everything, but just making sure like you give yourself an opportunity to travel, or like learn different things, like read. There's so many things you can do.
Yeah, and just to add on a little bit more, like I think I didn't realize like how unique and like special Marlboro is, and how incredibly prepared I was for college classes and like college life and time management and this like new level of independence, and just hearing like from my friends from school like what their different high schools were like it's kind of like hard to understand like how different Marlboro is until you kind of like have more to compare it to. And um and so like because that's also not something like my parents would always say like, oh, like you'll be well prepared, like Marlboro is a great school, and like I heard that, but I didn't really understand what that meant until I like had all these new like tasks on my plate coming to college and like having to figure out how to do all of that and manage like living alone and like things like that. So just like having a level of, hopefully there's a level of comfort knowing that when you graduate like you will be prepared. Sure, there's a learning curve with everything, but like you got this, like yeah, Marlboro has trained you well.
Those are great words of advice. Does anybody have any questions? I know I got a chat or two, so I can look at that as well. But you can just unmute if you have any questions. Okay, let me find the one in the chat. What was the most interesting opportunity or program you heard about that you ended up taking?
I guess I could start with this one. I can talk about my research a little bit because I kind of just like applied to it somewhat on a whim because and then I've really enjoyed it so far. And so basically like Duke has this program called Bass Connections, which is like the whole program is all about like interdisciplinary group research. And so I'm a part of a team that consists of faculty members, graduate students, and then undergraduate students from like several different departments. And we work in this like it's currently all over Zoom, but in this like small team And in my case, we're studying Alzheimer's disease and the progression with respect to like exercise and menopause. Um, and so, but they're also like, there's research in like the humanities and a whole bunch of different fields. And so I learned about this just through, I went to one of the activities fairs at Duke and like learned about the program. And I've always been someone who's like interested in like a variety of fields, and like I've like enjoyed finding how they intersect and what I can do to explore that kind of intersection. And so this seemed to be like the perfect thing. And then my work in honors research in high school, and also like coming from like Marlboro, and that like female empowered like environment helped me like in the interview process and in the research that we're doing, because like it has to do with women and like menopause and how women are more affected um, in that way. And so like it was an interesting culmination of what I had done at Marlboro and how like specifically it applied to what I could do here. And yes, I've really enjoyed the opportunity to work so closely with faculty members and getting to know other students that I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Yeah, so I think what is cool that I most recently am taking a part of is being like a teacher's assistant for one of my professors. That I wrote an extra credit research paper on like the tipping system in America. And so she ended up reaching out to me and asked me to make to be a teaching assistant, which pretty much what you do is you attend class and like you monitor like the Zoom and like you grade things and you hold office hours, and it's a paid position. And what's really interesting that you come into school, you realize like even after first semester freshman year, you can actually TA for the teachers that you had first semester. And that was so weird that I would have like one of my good friends be grading my papers. I didn't necessarily like it, but it's part of like just the hotel school culture in a way. So I think that it's something that I'm really excited about, that I'm starting next semester. You can probably help other kids that are struggling with the concepts. And I think it's just a great community to be a part of, because you have like a couple other TAs, and it's a really good opportunity to get closer with your professor and just learn more. So
Great. The next question, oh, I really like this one, is what grade were you in when you had your first job, and what was it?
I'll go first. So I kind of did the baking thing at the bakery. Was when I was 14, but it was like a lot of people say it was like child labor, because I like opened at like 6 a.m. and I closed at like 6 p.m. So, but I loved it. I mean, it was so much fun for me. And I literally ate so many cookies, and I just got to bake all day. And from that, I learned I definitely don't want to have a bakery. I definitely don't want to be a baker. It's like backbreaking work, and like the profit margins were just like not very good. But that was my first job, and yeah, it was a good experience for me.
Yeah, for me, like, I think it was summer after sophomore year, I want to say, maybe it was freshman year. I did like an internship with this like local startup by where I lived. So I'm from Manhattan Beach, so it was in El Segundo. And like this was actually, it was a really small, like it was like a fashion like blog something startup, which is not at all what I'm interested in now, but it was still like a good experience to kind of understand what goes into like running a company and like what a social media presence means now. And so like I ended up getting this position. This like woman had come and spoke to like this group I was involved in probably a year before, and I had emailed her after it like, oh, like I'm at this point, like I'm interested in what you're doing, like if you ever want like an intern or something, I'd love to like shadow you, something like that, like me being a freshman in high school trying to understand what networking means. And then like a year later she reached out and she's like, oh, you can come interview if you want, like I could really like use the help. And so yeah, I did that for a couple months over the summer. And like I really enjoyed the experience. Like sure, it has like almost nothing to do with what I want to do now, but that's okay. And I learned from it and I enjoyed it. And like I think it was a good lesson on networking for me. The fact that like, yes, you're going to reach out to people who are not going to respond to you. That happens. But sometimes it does, like, they do respond, and then bam, you have an internship. But yeah.
And what are some of the similarities and differences between class at college versus high school?
I think like the main one, especially in your first year, you're taking a lot of introductory courses. So again, like kind of depends on the school you go to, but these like 101 classes tend to be a lot bigger. And you will find that a fair number of people choose not to show up to class. And that was a little new to me. But then like as you continue to progress, like at least at Duke, classes do get smaller. And so I'd say there's similarities there in terms of like size, um and like some of like my seminars and stuff. And like I think the seminar based classes I've had are very similar to the ones at Marlborough, where it's like a lot of participation, and then you like of course naturally you have your people who are more active in the conversation, and then you have quieter students. But I think these like big lectures are pretty different than kind of anything you get at Marlborough, because like while you get more face-to-face time with TAs and discussions and stuff, it's less close contact with your professor unless you really work for it and you show up to office hours and things like that. And at Marlborough, it's pretty easy to get in touch with your teachers, because of the way like classes are structured and the schedule is structured, which like I was really grateful for in high school. But having that face-to-face time with professors it's more on you, like you to get it to happen and develop that relationship. So that's I think that is what I saw as like a difference.
Yeah, so a little unlike Anna, I took a couple like big lecture classes, but most of my classes are really small. And what I found surprising, and this is definitely not in other schools, so this is just like my particular experience just within my major, which is like very specific, like I've mentioned. Attendance actually counts towards your grade, and so does participation in sometimes. So that was really different for me. So, and also like you realize with people coming like from all over the world, just like perspective wise, like that's really different, because I know being in Los Angeles, it's a little more concentrated in terms of like there's a little less diversity. And so just being able to hear people's different perspectives has been really interesting for me. Also, I had a lot of group projects in a lot of my classes, and they pair you kind of randomly. And what I kind of learned from that is just working with other people can be extremely difficult, because at Marlborough, everyone's like, they're on it, like if you don't do it, you're going to see them tomorrow. And just like that kind of culture switch where some people just like didn't care at all, and other people were just, there's like this term like hardo, which I've never heard before I went to Cornell, but it's like the like overpowering, like dominant person, like hardcore business person. And so you just have like a spectrum of different people, and just learning kind of like how to manage like yourself within a team and how to be respectful towards people's opinions, really important. And just conflict resolution. So when you go to college, like you're going to meet a ton of different people, and it's going to be really exciting, and you're definitely going to grow just like as a person, and learning how to like know like yourself better. So that's a little bit different.
Okay, and we will finish it up with Lila's question of how would you compare the workload in college versus high school?
I would say I think they're pretty comparable. Um, I guess there's tends to be, depending on what you're studying, there tends to be more reading based things in college, and so you'll be assigned like X number of pages to read. And also like the way classes are spaced out, which I guess kind of resembles the block schedule. I know there are scheduling changes at Marlborough since we've graduated, so I'm not totally sure what it looks like now. But and so like it's a lot, like there's a lot of discussion based things and reasoning with like arguments and stuff and writing papers, and even when you're in like a STEM field like what I'm studying. And so I think that felt kind of different than Marlborough, and there's a lot of more individual accountability, I would say, because like say you're in like this large class, like it's kind of up to you to be able to like study for the exams and prep and show up to discussion and show up to the different sections. And so like that was kind of a change, but it kind of like now I guess it's been like a year and a half since Marlboro, so maybe I'm struggling, maybe I'm misremembering, but in terms of like actual work, I think it's about the same. Emily, what's your experience?
Yeah, I agree. I think Marlboro like prepares you so well. Like I was done with my assignments before anyone even started them, and people were like, "What are you doing?" And it just like the whole time management thing. I feel like Marlboro really prepares you well because like Anna, for like a little while, we both had to like commute since we're both like in Manhattan Beach, so that's like an hour away from Marlboro, and just like riding the bus, also like sports, like just like different activities. So you get really good at knowing like how to time management, like when you need sleep and everything like that. So I think that what's different is like you really can make like college and I think high school just as hard as like you want it to be. So I found that colleges for me has been a little like significantly easier than high school. But that's just my experience in just being able to like, I think that Marlboro also teaches you how to ask for help, which a lot of other kids don't really know how to do. Because like when I was struggling, like I went to office hours, but a lot of people were like, no, like why would I do that? But just being able to also like talk to professors, like a lot of other students might not want to do that because they just like don't have that experience, like they have that disconnect from like maybe going to public school and not being as close. But I think that like in a lot of ways Marlboro and college like the transition is a lot smoother for a lot of people.
Great. Well, I know that we still have like a couple questions left, but I can definitely I have Anna and Emily's email, so if they're okay with it, I can definitely, if you have any questions, you can email me and I can put you in contact with them. But I just wanted to say thank you again for coming. I learned so much, and I'm sure on behalf of everybody else, they learned as well. So thank you for your advice and taking the time. I'm really excited to see what you guys accomplish in the rest of your journey. So hopefully we stay in contact.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Exciting to be back. Thanks for carrying on the Career Connections Club
Yeah,
too.
we're so happy that the legacy lives on.
Your emails were still on the My Marlboro page up until like a couple months ago, and so I think you probably got a lot of emails from people like all of last year because
really? We didn't
contacts for Career Connections.
Oh no, it's totally fine. Your Marlboro email account gets disabled.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
So.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thank
bye
you.
everyone.
Bye.